Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did. So let's get started. Number 5 was A Quiet Place Day 1, making $6.3 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $127 million and a worldwide total of $241 million. Quiet Place is still sticking around despite some pretty heavy competition for itself. It's still bringing in its core audience, adding to the fact that while it was a bit front-loaded on its opening, it's still being able to maintain its solid word of mouth with audiences, which is really solid. Of course, this is definitely going to surpass 130 million domestically very soon, probably by tomorrow or maybe Wednesday or so. And on the worldwide side of things, it should definitely surpass 250 million worldwide, which is a pretty solid achievement. I don't think it's going to get to 300 million. It's slowing down a bit, as you would expect for like a big horror movie to do. But it's not like it's plummeting like with each and every week. Again, this weekend's drop off was just 44%. Very impressive, given the competition it's going up against. And while this is definitely going to be the last time we see this movie in the top 5, given a certain movie coming out this weekend, this has been a very solid run. Definitely a much needed win for the horror genre, especially mainstream horror, and just another piece of evidence that Quiet Place is a modern staple in horror. It's pretty much one of the bigger franchises in this genre, and audiences still love checking these movies out. A pretty solid run at the box office, if I do say so myself. Another solid weekend for A Quiet Place Day 1 as well. Just a solid run. Number 4 was Longlegs, making $11 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $44 million and a worldwide total of $52 million. So it appears that this movie wasn't as front-loaded as a lot of us were expecting it to, as it had an excellent hold, especially for a smaller horror film, only dropping 47% from last weekend, which is great for a horror movie like this. Despite the C+ cinema score, it's showing that word of mouth, and definitely curiosity and interest is certainly high with this movie. A lot of people are just really want to see what the buzz and the hype is about. And it's really starting to take off, especially for Neon. It's roughly like 9 million away from surpassing their biggest movie domestically, Parasite from 2019, which is very impressive to see. And also, given the year it's been for horror, this is an even bigger impressive run for this movie, as a lot of other horror movies to this degree were financial disappointments, where this has really started to take off. Hell, if it can keep going at the rate it's going, it wouldn't surprise me if it would crack the top 10 of the summer, maybe even reach the heights of some other big summer movies, like Garfield or Fall Guy. I could be getting ahead of myself, I know, but the sky's the limit for this movie. It seems people genuinely want to go and check this movie out. The hype is still there, the buzz is still there, and because the movie apparently costs only $3 million, this is an insanely huge win for Neon, the studio, and certainly for the movie. This is already hugely profitable. Overall, another solid weekend for Longlegs. We'll see how much further this movie can go. It's got a couple more weeks until the next big horror thriller type movie, Trap, in August, so we'll see what that does to this movie. But once again, I think the movie is still going to be able to make way more than it needs to. It's not like it needs to make any more, but it's still going to continue to make more, and hopefully it reaches the heights that I talked about previously, because so far, man, this is one of the biggest surprises of the summer. Definitely a hugely impressive run at the box office for sure. Number 3 is once again Inside Out 2, making $12 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $596 million and a worldwide total of $1.4 billion. So Inside Out 2 has finally done it. It has surpassed the Super Mario Bros. Movie, both domestically and worldwide. In terms of on the domestic side of things, it is the second biggest animated film of all time, just 4 million away from surpassing 600 million domestically, folks. That is insane. Which will make it the second animated film in history to do that domestically, obviously behind Incredibles 2. Speaking of that movie, once it does that, it'll be just 8 million away from surpassing that movie's entire domestic run, and I think it'll be able to do that by the end of this week. Just imagine, we're gonna witness Incredibles 2's record-breaking performance a couple years ago get surpassed. I never thought I would see something like this, at least on the domestic side of things. Just absolutely insane run. And on the worldwide side of things, it is also the second biggest animated film of all time, just sitting roughly like 10 million away from surpassing Frozen 2's worldwide total. I'm sure it's going to get there very soon. So it will officially be the biggest animated film of all time worldwide, unless if you count the 2019 quote-unquote live-action Lion King remake. Then it's just roughly 100 million away from that. But like, come on, y'all, it's gonna surpass that. It's guaranteed going to surpass that. So yes, we are going to live in a world where Inside Out 2 officially becomes the biggest animated film of all time, both domestically and worldwide. Absolutely fantastic achievement, man. I was not expecting it. I'm not complaining it, but I'm just more surprised, if anything, just how far this movie was able to go, man. You know, just the insanely positive word of mouth, the great legs, just man. And keep in mind, it's still only in the top 3. It's been out for like almost 2 months now, and it's still in the top 3. That is insane. And it's going to be interesting to see how it goes up against a certain movie this weekend. Not for it to like steal the number 3 spot, obviously, but like in terms of just like the biggest movie of the year, there's a lot riding on that movie. That it's pretty much that movie is going to be this movie's first real big threat in that regard on biggest movie of the year. We'll talk about more of that later in the video, but it's going to be interesting to see how those two compete. But if I'm being honest, my money's on Inside Out 2. I just think, you know, it overperformed to such a degree that I don't think a lot of people were expecting it to. So yeah, overall, just another solid weekend for this movie and an even more impressive run for Inside Out 2. Just bravo. Number 2 was Despicable Me 4, making, funny enough, $24 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $260 million and a worldwide total of $577 million. So this movie has now officially surpassed the first Despicable Me. It's on its way on surpassing the third Despicable Me, domestically speaking at least. Worldwide, it was still able to surpass the first one, but it's got a journey to reaching the heights of that movie. But I still think it's going to be able to make it, given, you know, the better reception this movie's gotten from audiences and the lack of competition it's got to face. You know, we're heading into the dog days of summer. There's not a lot of family fare out, you know, other than Harold and the Purple Crayon. But I still think this movie's gonna put up a good fight against that movie. Surprising, I know, but I think it's still got a shot, and I think it's gonna really make up for the lack of other big family movies out during that time. Also, you know, kids are gonna be going back to school soon. We're heading into August in a couple weeks, and I think that's gonna be a last like good, you know, trip at the movies for a lot of kids, you know. This movie's just continuing to resonate with people. It's making up for, you know, lack of family fare. Everyone has already seen Inside Out 2, clearly, and so now they're gonna give Despicable Me 4 a chance, and it's reaping the rewards. It surpassed 500 million worldwide, which is already a huge milestone, especially for the $100 million budget, and odds are it can get close to or just maybe even barely surpass the $1 billion mark. I can see both of those things happening, which again, $100 million movie, that would be nothing to sneeze at, folks, and would continue this franchise's huge success train at the box office. It recently just surpassed, the whole franchise has just surpassed $5 billion, man, which is just insane to think about, especially in your 6th movie. This franchise is still going. Yeah, just another solid weekend for Despicable Me 4, still bringing in the kids, still bringing in the families. Not much more else to add here, just another good weekend. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, which was Twisters, opening with $81 million this weekend domestically and $124 million worldwide. This is the second biggest opening of the summer, topping Despicable Me 4, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Bad Boys Ride or Die, but still sitting behind Inside Out 2. It is also the third biggest opening of the year, topping Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire and Despicable Me 4, but still sitting behind Dune Part 2 and Inside Out 2. And it's the biggest opening ever for a disaster movie, topping The Day After Tomorrow, 2012, San Andreas, and Noah. We have yet another big overperformer this summer. I feel like I was definitely being a bit harsh on this movie last week. I didn't think it was going to do terrible. I didn't think it was going to flop or anything, but I definitely made some harsh comparisons. I thought there wasn't a lot of buzz. I felt like this was going to be another Indiana Jones type scenario, but clearly I was wrong. I've been living under a rock. There was way more buzz, way more interest in follow-up to Twister. It goes to show you how much that film resonates with a lot of people to this very day. Like, it's been 30 years. The movie came out in like the late 90s, and people still want to go and check out another one, despite the fact it has not a lot of connections to the previous installment. You know, the marketing really sold itself, and people just genuinely wanted to go and check it out. It's not the next Jurassic World or Top Gun, but damn if this isn't impressive. This is really a big overperformer, and audiences do seem to be really digging this movie. It got an A- cinema score, which is actually on par with the A- the original Twister got, so we could see some very strong legs here. The big question though, well, actually two big questions here. First off, internationally, it doesn't seem to be taking off as strongly. I know it's got a couple more markets to open in, so hopefully it does. Those other markets help give this a boost, but internationally, it doesn't seem to be having as strong of a reach as the domestic side, so that's probably going to hurt it a bit. And it's also going to be facing off big competition this weekend. It's going to have to really put up a good fight. That word of mouth is just going to really have to save this movie, because man, do we have that big competition. That's going to be a big player. Once again, we're going to talk about that in a few, but yeah, it's going to have to put up a really good fight, as I do think that movie is just going to steal a lot of people away from this movie for sure. So hopefully it's able to put up a good fight. Hopefully we don't see a catastrophic or even a big drop off next weekend, because this is a really solid opening here. I was genuinely impressed. I thought this was going to be like one of the movies that just comes and goes, but no, this seems to be one of the bigger movies this summer that people really wanted to go check out. So yeah, a really solid opening for Twisters. Just the fact that it overperformed to this degree is very impressive. Definitely surprised me. Again, I feel like I was talking a lot of crap about this movie last weekend, but I'm very happy to see it overperform. I'm happy to see it reach this type of audience, and it seems to be reaping the rewards. It only costed $155 million to make. It's already made a majority of that back. If it can pull off what Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes did earlier this summer, then I think it'll be fine. It just needs to, like, once again, have better international numbers and, you know, put up a good fight against the big movie this weekend. But yeah, fantastic opening all around. I'm very curious to see where this movie ends up. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend we have one major wide release, that film being Deadpool and Wolverine. Folks, this is the movie. Yeah, that's it. This is just the movie. It's the long-awaited third film in the Deadpool franchise, the long-awaited return of Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine, the introduction of the X-Men into the MCU, and just the only Marvel movie coming out this year, you know, not counting all the Sony Marvel stuff, but that's besides the point. This is the movie that everyone's been talking about, everyone has been hyped about. Marvel has stated numerous times they've been putting so much effort and time and emphasis onto this one movie. They wanted to get it just right, and again, this is their only movie this year. They want to really land this right, you know. And it seems like it's going to pay off for them. A lot of people are very excited to see this movie. The buzz is huge anytime something pops up for this movie. Everyone talks about it. The marketing has been fantastic, you know. All of the ads and the promos they've done for this, I've seen everywhere, and they've been so creative and hilarious. And yeah, like I said earlier, this summer, this is one of the big three. This is probably going to be the biggest out of the three. Well, maybe, you know, there's the Inside Out 2 in the room, you know. That's the big thing concerning this, if it can top Inside Out 2. We'll see, you know. We're heading into the dog days of summer, so I think it's going to benefit from that as well. But it's also, you know, rated R, and, well, you can't take little Billy and Susie to see an R-rated movie filled with raunchy jokes and blood and violence and drug use and sex jokes. So that's probably the one thing that's going to prevent it from topping Inside Out 2. But otherwise, I think this is going to be a monster hit, huge opening. It wouldn't surprise me if this topped Inside Out 2's opening for sure. Everything just seems to be working for this movie. But we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that landed in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all those social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.